Caroline was always one of those people who stuck to a schedule. Every morning, like clockwork, she moved through the kitchen with quiet purpose, pouring coffee in her favorite mug, scrolling her phone, reminding the kids where they left their lunchboxes. From the outside, it looked like love, like normal. But people do not build routines unless they're trying to hold something together. It started a week earlier. I was picking up around the bathroom when something shiny on the floor caught my eye. It was small, barely there, but the light hit it just right. A blister pack from a pill. One little pocket popped open, marked Tuesday. I flipped it over my hand, confused. We didn't take any meds. Not regularly. And since my vasectomy 2 years ago, we had no need for birth control. So why was there a pill? I did not bring it up. Not at first. You do not walk into a storm without knowing where the lightning might strike. Instead, I waited. I looked. I found the rest of the package shoved behind a row of tampons in the bathroom cabinet. Hidden, but not well enough. It was a small thing, but it was the first thread to pull. That night, I started planning. I ordered cameras, audio recorders, cloned her phone. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. Something was off, and she was too careful for it to be anything small. If there was another man, I figured she was covering her tracks. But even smart people mess up when they get too comfortable. The gear showed up Friday. I set it up while she was at the grocery store. A microphone in her purse. A tiny camera in the living room light fixture. Nothing too obvious. Nothing risky. Just enough to catch what routine might try to hide. For a while, everything looked the same. We still had dinner. Still slept in the same bed. Even fooled around once or twice that weekend. But by Monday, the cracks started to show. She left for work, humming like she was 16 again, and I sat down with the footage. Saturday, she said she was taking a long shower. I was downstairs cooking, but on the tape, I watched her pull out a second phone, one I had never seen before, from behind the bathroom vent fan. She typed fast, smiling to herself like she was in on some private joke. A hidden phone, right there in our home. Later that night, I managed to clone it. That was when the walls started coming down. The messages were detailed, intimate, ongoing. Months, maybe more. She talked to this guy, only listed as him, like he was something precious. Messages laced with crazy day at the office and so tired tonight. Phrases I had taken at face value too many times. He was one of her junior employees, a guy she had mentored, one she had said she admired for his work ethic. Turns out he was just good at keeping secrets. The part that hit the hardest? Not the sex, not the logistics. It was the tenderness. The way she spoke to him, like he was the one she saved her softness for. Like he was the one who really saw her. I did not blow up. I did not scream or accuse. I smiled. I helped pack school lunches. I kissed her on the cheek when she left for work. Because I knew something she did not. The game was already over. She just had not realized it yet. Tuesday came and went. She was still humming, still smiling, still playing house. And I let her, because every lie she told made the truth more valuable to me. That afternoon, I installed another camera. This one went outside her office building. I had a buddy in tech who owed me a favor. Got me access to a GPS trace from his second phone too. M still had no name, just a letter. No photos, no easy trail. But he was getting sloppy. Wednesday night, she came home late. Long day, she said, dropping her keys on the table. Can you handle bedtime? I told her of course. No problem. And after the kids were asleep, I sat in my office, pulled up the day's footage, and hit play. At 3:22 p.m., Caroline left work with a younger man, maybe late 20s. Slim, wearing a gray shirt. Not someone you would look twice at in a crowd. They got into her car, drove across town, walked into an apartment building together. She came out alone 48 minutes later. Her face was blank, like the joy had already burned off. She made it back just in time for her company's all-hands meeting. Never said a word. I barely slept that night. It was not the pain that kept me awake. It was the planning. This was not a fling. It was built, maintained, polished, like a second identity she wore under her skin. And I had helped her carry the weight of it for years, never knowing. By Friday, I had a full name, Mason Delaney, 27, junior marketing associate. The same guy Caroline pushed for during hiring. Said he was sharp and hungry. She sure was not wrong about that. I looked into his background. Nothing on record. Lived alone. Low income. And then I found the money trail. 6 months ago, Caroline approved an unscheduled raise. Off the books. Quiet. But there, in the appendix of the company's board minutes. She was paying for it. Literally. This was not just cheating. This was control. She was building a life around him, funding it with the trust one had given her. And the part that stuck with me the most? She had no plans to leave me. She wanted the husband, the house, the kids, the image, all while sneaking out the back door for something that made her feel wild again. It was never about sex. It was about identity. And I was just the wallpaper. It hit me one day, clear as anything. Caroline did not just cheat for the thrill. She did it because Mason made her feel wild again. Like she had something secret and dangerous in her life. Something that made her feel wanted alive. And me? I was the fallback plan. The guy who fixed the fence, packed the lunches, and didn't ask too many questions. Her safety net. Her backup. But then I started asking questions. Not to her, though. Not yet. Because I had a bigger one I needed answered first. Was she sloppy? Turns out, she was. I started digging bank statements, company records, shared expenses, anything under her name that didn't make sense. Took me a couple nights, but there it was, a lease. Paid quarterly. Under her maiden name. A townhome halfway between her office and wherever Mason lived. Never mentioned it. Never showed up in any conversation. 1 bedroom. Fully furnished. Door code entry. Grocery deliveries every other Friday. They had built themselves a little hideout. That is when the heartbreak faded and something colder took its place. Not hate, focus. Sharp, quiet, surgical focus. You start hearing things differently once your eyes open. I'm just so tired tonight, or work's been nonstop, started sounding like background noise in a bad movie. I used to believe her without thinking. Now I was recording the soundtrack in my head. That weekend, I drove out to the address. Middle-class neighborhood, trimmed lawns, cars parked with precision. Looked like a place where nothing dramatic ever happened. I parked a block down, threw on a hoodie, walked slow past their little rental, number 418. It looked clean, normal. One of those townhouses where someone might raise a toddler or walk their dog. But inside, it was something else. I didn't go in that day. Just took note of the smart lock model. Same one we used to have. I knew how to break into it without a key. By Monday, I had the code. Pulled from her secret phone's cloned app. 4 digits. Mason's birth year. She used his birthday to lock the door to their secret life. That detail sat in my chest like lead. I waited until Wednesday, her usual late meeting night. She said she had an off-site with her team and dinner afterward. Routine. Predictable. So at 6:43 p.m., her secret phone's GPS lit up. A few minutes later, Mason's pinged too. They were together. At the townhome. Right on schedule. So I went in. Same hoodie. Same street. Same quiet walk. I punched in the code, opened the door, and stepped into the world they thought was safe. It smelled like expensive candles and sweet wine. The kind of wine she would not buy for us. 2 half-empty glasses sat on the table, next to a laptop streaming some ambient playlist. Upstairs, I heard giggling. I did not follow it. That would have been emotional. And I was not here for that. I walked through the place instead. Looked at everything. Neutral furniture. No family pictures. No reminders of the life she left behind when she came here. But there was one photo, just one. Her and Mason at the beach. His lips on her neck. Her eyes closed, smiling like nothing else in the world mattered. That smile, she hadn't given that to me in a long time. Still, I did not touch anything. I did what I came to do. Planted a microphone under the couch. Another in the air vent. Swapped the hallway light bulb for one with a micro camera inside. Took photos. Documented everything. And then I walked out the way I came in. Back home, I made spaghetti. Helped with homework. Cleaned up. At 9:15 p.m., Caroline texted, running late. Gonna shower when I get home. Love you. Of course, she was going to shower. Wash off the lies. She walked in at 9:41, kissed me on the cheek. Smelled like lavender and guilt. Long day, I asked. Crazy, she said, kicking off her shoes. You have no idea. I smiled. Nope, no idea at all. She squinted at me. Why are you smiling? No reason. That night, I reviewed the audio feed. Mason calling her Caro, her saying she missed him, talking about how I was getting suspicious, but she could handle it, that she had managed worse. She thought she was ahead of the game. She had no clue I was already holding the scoreboard. She had made me small in her little fantasy world, talked about my insecurities like they were punchlines, things I had confided in her, trusted her with. But what she never realized was I had already started making her disappear. Thursday, I met with my lawyer, told him everything. The burner phone, the apartment, the expense records, the audio, the tracking. All of it. He blinked slow. You're putting together a nuclear case. You sure you want to go scorched earth? I did not hesitate. Yeah, I'm sure. We laid out a plan. Divorce under fault-based grounds for infidelity. Potential company liability for her misusing funds. A prenup clause that gave me the advantage if adultery was proven. The works. I could take the house, the kids, and the reputation she spent years pretending to care about. Leave her with the boy, the lies, and a lease she could not afford. But it wasn't enough. I didn't just want to end it. I wanted her to feel it. And to do that, I needed one last piece, fear. That moment right before a secret collapses and someone realizes everything is about to change. That Friday, I drove to her office, not to confront her, just to watch. She was outside with Mason, laughing, coffee cup in hand. Their body language was perfect, professional, like they practiced it. But once you know, you can see it. She leaned into his shoulder when she laughed. He touched her arm, then let go like it was instinct. And maybe it was. She was good, but I was better. That night, I started phase 2, isolation. I stopped talking to her as much. Faked work stress. Made excuses. She leaned in, tried harder. Asked how I was doing. Offered back rubs. Initiated more often in bed. I let her believe we were reconnecting. While underneath, I was pulling every support beam out from under her life. The kids came next. I took over more drop-offs, pickups, soccer games, bedtime. Slowly made myself the default parent. No arguments. No drama. Just presence. Because when the fall came, I wanted them standing on my side of the line. When I sat down with the family lawyer, she leaned across the desk and said, "If this heads to court, everything you've laid out puts full custody in your hands." It was not a warning for Caroline yet, but it was about to be. I was not just out to reveal the truth. I was going to make her stand at a crossroads, with her whole life on one side, and the boy she risked it all for on the other. I started moving her money, quietly, legally, carefully, pulled the bulk of our joint savings, and slid it into a trust for the kids. Solid, protected, locked down tight. Then I transferred the deed to the house, which had always been in my name, thanks to an inheritance, to a shell company I built through a buddy who works in real estate. If she ran a search, it would still show my name. But if she ever tried to fight for it, she'd run face first into a brick wall of paperwork. Next, I turned my attention to the raise she snuck Mason at work. I filed an anonymous tip with her company's human resources department. Flagged the approval dates, the connection, everything. It would take time to bubble up, but when it did, it would be loud. And then came the real play. Monday morning, she would get a package at work. No return label. No name on it. Just an envelope and a stack of pages inside. The contents? 1. A full transcript of her messages with Mason. Flirty, filthy, sentimental. 2. A still image pulled from the hallway camera, where she and Mason had their arms wrapped around each other like something out of a cheap romance movie. 3. A printed copy of the lease she signed for the townhouse, in her maiden name. 4. A spreadsheet outlining the quiet little raise she handed Mason, circled in red, and a single piece of paper on top, typed in big, black letters. "You have until Friday to tell me the truth, or I will." Back home that evening, she was humming again, making pasta in that old, soft gray shirt I once said was my favorite, moving around the kitchen like everything was fine, smiling like she had her world neatly balanced again. From the hallway, I watched her like someone watching a play they already knew the ending to. She looked up and smiled. "You okay?" "Just tired," I said. "Busy day." At 10:03 the next morning, she opened the envelope. I know because the security footage at her office caught it. Her face shifted immediately, eyes wide, fingers trembling, back stiffening as she flipped through page after page. By the time she hit the final note, her expression went blank. Not shocked, not scared, frozen, like prey realizing it was already in the trap. She slipped into the bathroom 10 minutes later. Another camera picked that up. She stared into the mirror like she was trying to find some version of herself that had not blown up her life yet. Tough break, sweetheart. By 10:30, she was back at her desk. I got a text at 10:31. Hey babe, just thinking about you. Everything okay? Touching. Really? Especially since I had just watched her sweat through her blouse. That night, she came home earlier than usual. Dinner was already going. Candles lit. Table set with the good plates we only ever use for birthdays and anniversaries. I thought we could do something nice, she said, trying to sound casual. Looks great, I said, sliding into my chair. She talked more than usual. Little compliments. Asked about work. Smiled too much. I could tell she was waiting for me to mention the envelope. But I didn't. After the kids were tucked in, she followed me into my office. Her eyes were glassy. Her voice almost broke. Can we talk? I shut my laptop, gave her a nod. She sat on the edge of the desk, same spot she used to sit when we first moved in. Back when things were good. Like she thought maybe she could charm her way out of this one, too. I have not been completely honest, she said. With you. About Mason. She said his name like it hurt to say it out loud. It started small. We were just working together, and things got stressful. I felt like I could talk to him. She trailed off. I said nothing. She swallowed. We kissed. A few times. Then, yes, we slept together. But I never meant. Stop, I said. My voice was calm. Steady. But shut her up fast. Please, I said stop. I got up, turned toward the window, looking out like I might need the night air to keep me level. You are not sorry for doing it, I said without turning around. You're sorry because you got caught. Silence. Thick as concrete. I turned and faced her again. You're going to pack a bag. Tonight. You're leaving. I already spoke to my lawyer. The divorce paperwork is being finalized. You'll get it by the end of the week. She stared, stunned. Gary, wait. We can fix this. We're a family. No, I said. I have a family. You had a side project. That one landed like a punch. Her mouth opened, but no words came. She tried again. What about the kids? They love us. Don't do this to them. You should have thought about them before you turned every school pickup into an opportunity for an affair. That hit her. I saw it in her eyes, the way they widened, calculating how much I knew. I saw it all, sweetheart. The townhouse, the door code, the raise, the smirks, the schedule, and then I let it all go quiet. You think this is the worst of it? I said finally. You do not even know what's coming. Her voice was almost gone. What do you mean? I stepped in close. Held her gaze. You'll find out Friday. That night, she did not sleep. I heard her pacing in the guest room like a woman waiting for a sentence to be handed down. I, on the other hand, slept better than I had in months. Because now she wasn't just exposed. She was cornered. And Friday? That would be the day I dropped the second envelope. The one that doesn't just end a marriage. It ends her career. She left Thursday morning in a rush. Same powder blue blouse she wore the day I caught her with Mason on camera. Whether she remembered or not, I did. It looked different now. That shade used to mean calm. Now it looked exactly like a bruise. I stood by the upstairs window and watched her drive away. No kiss goodbye. No, I love you. Not even the fake kind she used to toss my way like spare change. Just the sound of her car pulling out of the driveway while the house sat still and quiet. The kids were still in bed. And me? I was already gearing up for war. Because Friday was not just about her. It was about him too. Mason Delaney, 27 years old. Young, smug, and completely unaware that everything he had was about to fall apart. I had tracked down his apartment, his gym, even figured out where he liked to grab drinks after work. But more importantly, I figured out his weak spot. He was under contract. No union. No protection. And his manager, my wife, had just committed 3 very clear policy violations. Sleeping with a direct report, greenlighting a raise without formal review, and using company funds to cover their little side life. This was not just an affair. It was a career-ending mess. By 9 a.m. Friday morning, 3 packages were dropped off. 1 for Caroline, 1 for her company, and 1 for Mason. Caroline's envelope held the full weight of everything she had earned. The divorce petition, a detailed custody claim, and a formal breakdown of finances, letting her know that the savings account was no longer shared and that my portion had already been locked down in a trust for the kids. Her company's package was sealed and anonymous. Inside, a thick stack of paperwork, financial statements, emails, text message screenshots, a copy of the lease she signed for that hidden townhouse. Every dotted I, every crossed T. No accusations, just proof. And Mason, you got a single-page letter. You did not just sleep with your boss, Da. You helped her burn down a life that was not yours to touch, Da. You have 48 hours to step down and disappear, Da. If not, the next envelope goes to your company's board of directors. No threats, no drama, just facts. By 10:42 that morning, Caroline called, sobbing into my voicemail, apologizing between shaky breaths, saying we still had time to talk. I let it go to archive. At 11:08, I received an automated message from her employer. Access suspended. Official internal review opened. By noon, Mason had vanished from every platform. His social media wiped. His phone shut off. Guess he knew when the tide was turning. I spent the rest of the day at the zoo with my kids. Cotton candy, monkeys, laughter, all the things that still mattered. They had no idea that the world was breaking just a few blocks away. I held their hands tighter than usual because they were innocent, and I was their safe place now. When we got back, her car was gone. The guest room closet, half empty. Her ring was left on the kitchen table. Predictable. Cliché. She sent me a text that night. I don't know how it all fell apart. I lost myself, but I never stopped loving you. Please believe that. I did not respond. Love is not enough when respect is gone. And when trust dies, it does not come back. The next morning, while putting laundry away, I noticed a box in the back of the closet, tucked under old workout gear. Inside, photos. Dozens of them. Some of me, some of our kids, and some of him. Mason. Lazy smiles. Dim hotel light. Her curled up on his chest. A little world I never knew existed, printed in glossy 4x6. At the bottom of the box, a note, torn from her journal. Just one line. If Gary ever finds out, I'll lose everything. But I can't stop. She knew. Every dinner, every bedtime story, every school event. She knew what was at stake, and she still chose to roll the dice. That is when it hit me. Not anger, not revenge, grief. Because betrayal is not just an event. It is a funeral for the version of your life you thought was real. But I was not finished. I had taken her job. I had taken her comfort. Now it was time to take her narrative. Caroline had always been good at spinning things, playing the misunderstood victim. She would paint herself as the overwhelmed mom, the exhausted wife. Say it was a moment of weakness, that I was distant, and she just needed to feel alive. That would not fly this time. She wore a mask, and I was about to pull it off in front of everyone she had ever fooled. I started small. A text to her sister, Sarah, the one who always saw Caroline as some untouchable saint. The same woman who once told me I was lucky to be married to her. I kept it simple. Ask your sister about Mason. Start with the lease on Mayfield Terrace. Then ask about the pills. Half an hour later, she replied, "What are you talking about?" I said nothing, because I knew Caroline would get to her first. She would rush in, try to spin the truth, water it down, cry in her coffee. But that is why I sent the pictures next. For images. Clean, clear, no nudity, just enough. Caroline with Mason's head in her lap, kissing him on the side of the face. Her name on the lease. The birth control pack, dated and labeled. An hour later, Sarah texted again. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Another mask fell, and I was just getting started. After everything, there was one more place left to go. The group chat. You know the one. Those longtime friends, college couples we vacation with, two of whom stood next to us when we said I do. People who'd seen us at our best. Maybe even thought we were that couple, the solid ones. Saturday night, I waited until after dinner, when I knew phones were in hand, kids tucked in, wine glasses half full. Then I dropped a message. "Hey everyone, sorry I've been quiet. Just wanted you to hear it from me. Caroline and I are separating. You'll hear her side eventually. Here's mine." Attached was a single PDF. The timeline, 9 months of lies. No dramatic words. No anger in the margins. Just receipts. The hidden phone. The secret lease. The text messages. The raise she gave Mason. And, yes, even the DNA results. Not a smear campaign. Just the facts, laid bare like a cold autopsy. By Sunday morning, I had private messages from 3 out of the 4 wives. All shocked. 2 said they had their suspicions, but didn't want to stir the pot. One of the husbands, Eric, called me in tears. Man, I feel like an idiot. I never saw it. Don't, I told him. You weren't the one having an affair with someone half your age in a rented townhouse, lying to your husband and kids. I didn't go posting it all over social media. That wasn't the point. Public drama earns sympathy. But private shame? That festers. That sticks to a person. As for her co-workers, I didn't lift a finger. The Human Resources Department took care of it for me. By Monday, Caroline was placed on unpaid leave while they launched an internal investigation. By Wednesday, Mason had resigned. Her inbox, empty. Her word chat, silent. Her corner office, cold. She called, of course, left a voicemail full of shaky breath and regret. I didn't answer. She texted, begging to meet, saying she needed to explain. Explain what? That she needed connection? That she missed being wanted? She could have said that to me. Instead, she said it to someone else in a rental apartment and a burner phone. I only sent her one message back. Your version of the story is over. Mine's just getting started. Then, just to be safe, I sat down with a ghostwriter. Not for a book, just a prepared statement. Something personal, firm, and legally sound. I had no plans to release it. But if she tried to twist the truth or drag me into some sob story for sympathy, I'd be ready. People like Caroline never go quietly. And I was not going to let her paint herself as a victim with a broken heart. Last thing I did, I met with the hiring manager at Mason's next potential job. He didn't know I'd caught wind of the interview, but I had. The manager, someone I knew from a shared business circle, was happy to hear me out. I handed him a sealed envelope. Said simply, you can hire him, but just make sure you know who you're bringing on board. He's not a criminal, but he sure as hell isn't trustworthy. That was all I needed to say. They passed on him. By the following Monday, Caroline's world had collapsed in on itself. The home? Mine by title and by law. The kids? I had already started becoming their constant. Her job? Hanging by threads she could no longer reach. Mason? Gone. And her? She was left with the one thing she worked so hard to avoid facing. Herself. But even after all that, I was still staring at one last question. The kids. What now? I wish I could say the hardest part was catching her, or delivering those final blows to her carefully crafted world. But it wasn't. The hardest part was tucking 2 children into bed, children I'd raised and protected, and realizing they weren't mine. Not biologically, not by blood. They carried her smile, her eyes. But somewhere in the gaps of DNA and timeline, there was someone else, maybe Mason, maybe someone before him. I did not chase that thread, because in the end, the fire had already done its work. The walls were down. The foundation cracked. What mattered now were the 2 lives still sleeping upstairs, unaware that their world was built on a lie. James was 6. Sonia, 4. Sonia drew me a picture just days before. Me, holding her hand, hearts floating above our heads. Why the hearts? I asked. She smiled, sleepy and proud. Because you're the love daddy. Not just a daddy, the love daddy. And in that moment, I knew. I did not create them, but I made them feel safe. I carried them through storms. I was the man who answered when they cried at night, who sat through school recitals, who memorized which snack they hated and which show they watched on repeat. I was their father. No test was going to change that. So I made the call, told my lawyer, I want full custody. Both kids. He blinked. You're under no legal obligation. If they're not yours, Caroline could be held responsible for child support. I don't care. File the paperwork. And I was right. She didn't contest it. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was relief. Or maybe she knew. Those kids were never hers the way they were mine. 3 months later, the house was just ours. Me and the kids. The guest room, once hers, was now a playroom. I repainted the walls with my own hands. That burner phone? Still tucked in my drawer. Same with the files, the photos, the recordings. Not for revenge, for clarity. Time has a way of dulling truth. But I would not forget. One night, Sonia crawled into my lap, eyes heavy with sleep, and asked, "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy come home anymore?" I paused. Then I said, honest but gentle, "Because she forgot how to be kind." She thought about that for a second, then nodded. "Will you forget?" I kissed her forehead. "No, sweetheart. I remember everything." And that was the real ending. Her story, over. Mine, still going. And this time, I am the one writing it.